here are all of the craziest news articles of the week that you might have missed in the news. We'll be covering a new UFO bill, Canada's UFO efforts, a girl playing with Bigfoot, and more. Thank you for everyone that came here on a Monday. I know our shows are usually on Fridays when it comes to strangest news of the week, but I'm barely doing this show at the skin of my teeth, to be honest with you. My work schedule is insane and it will continue to be for a good chunk of time, but I really love making this content for you. I love covering these shows, and if I'm able to do more shows like this, of course I will, even if my schedule is all over the place. But if you want behind the scenes, merch, and so much more, you can find it all on Patreon, and that way it'll really support the channel here, and maybe I can stop working 2 jobs and make this my full-time gig. All right, getting into the news today, I'm really excited. This is actually really interesting. Starting off with the UAP Transparency Act. That is what Tim Burchett called this act. Let's get into it because it's rather new information, because this is to be introduced in Congress by Tim Burchett later this week, and it requires the declassification of all UFO-related documents held by federal agencies within 270 days of the bill's passage. And passage is in all caps because it has not been passed yet. This bill is still being pondered on, thought about before it can be made into a real bill, a real act. And what we're looking at here is that it was created by Tim Burchett, Anna Paulina Luna, and Jared Moskovich as well, because they are one of the few congressmen that have been really pushing for UAP transparency more so than other representatives. And what Burchett really mentions, actually, in an interview that he gives to Fox News, is that it's not really about knowing if we're being visited by what he says little green men, but more so to see where our tax dollars are going. Because there's a lot of these black projects, a lot of money is just being lost, and they say, oh, it's for UFO research, but there is no further information than that sentence alone. And so for Tim Burchett, Anna Paulina Luna, and others, that's really what their highlight is. That's really what they're looking for, is where is the money going? Now, for you and I, this is great in both respects. Both to know in the sense of where, obviously, we pay a lot of taxes, where is it going? And then also it is pushing for that UFO transparency to the best of the government's abilities. So I think it's a 2-in-1 whammy here. And I will let you know as soon as I do when this bill gets passed, if it ever gets passed. There was the UAPDA a few months ago, and that was run by Chuck Schumer, and a lot of it was taken out. So it passed, and I'm putting that in quotation marks, but a good chunk of that bill, it didn't happen. It didn't go through, which is not shocking. This one, I really hope it does. And I'm actually going to show you the bill that I actually have here. So just give me a moment so we can all look at it together. And this is only a page and a half long. It is super short. And Burchett had mentioned that, here it is, that he wanted to keep it super simple. He did not want to make it complex with any kind of name or anything like that. He just wanted to keep it really simple, and here it is. There we go. Okay, so here's the first page, and it's like just a few words, and then getting into the second page, and in total it's only 23 lines long. And it says right here, it says no later than 270 days after the date of this enactment of this act, the president, and then I'm paraphrasing here, it needs to provide information. And then it says no later than 360 days after the date of the enactment of this act, and quarterly therefore. That's a little tidbit right there. And quarterly therefore. Let's back this up just for a moment, because this is rather important. If this bill passes, it might, and I'm putting might in all caps here as well, it might be better than all of the reports that we've received from AARO combined. It has been a mess with the UAPTF, with the AOI MSG, and now with AARO, all of these crazy acronyms to give you the same office. And their reports have not been to par. If anything, they make people's eyes roll almost out of their heads and onto your grandma's floor because it's so crazy. Now, with this and what Burchett really wants to push here, along with the other reps, is to say, where are our tax dollars going? Now, with the Arrow, UAPTF, and so on, they're trying to debunk UFO sightings. This one's just saying, where is the money going? So I think that is kind of cool in many ways, and of course a little lackluster in other. It wasn't a big report. It's the most simple title you could ever read, and he wanted to keep it incredibly simple. If you're enjoying the show, hit that like button right down below before we get into our next article, because we're going to be bringing up Canada. I know, I'm super. Let me actually close that. Okay, getting into Canada here, because we are aware, you and I, especially if you watch Strangest News of the Week religiously, you know that Canada has their own UFO research group known as the Canada Sky Project, and they should be releasing their report by the end of summer or the fall of this year. That's kind of their ballpark. Now, as of recently, the Sky Canada's project is mentioning that they probably won't release it until the fall, which, shocker, of course, they're going to take as much time as they need in order to provide a report. Let me emphasize this, because after Arrow's report that we got back in March, they said nothing to see here, and other countries say the same that have UFO offices. They were setting the stage for every other country to, when they provide their information to the world, saying, no, we agree with the US. And we are already seeing that. We saw it with Japan, and I can bet my boots it's going to happen with Canada as well in their report. So let's get into this, because according to the ctvnews.canada, their investigation has revealed that a US intelligence agency sought to meet with Transport Canada's lead on UFOs amidst the heightened interest in the topic, as they should. However, the senior federal transportation official by the name of Patrick Juneau repeatedly, and this is depressing, repeatedly downplayed the issue by contributing to contradictory media statements, pushing back against access to information requests, and deflecting questions to people in Canada and the United States while being involved in a UFO briefing for the Transport Minister's office. Because when we're dealing with Canada, they have the Transport Canada has had their hand in the UFO topic more so than other fields, other offices. It's really the Transport Canada that's been looking into this. And when we're looking at this new person on the field, I like to say, because his name is new to me, by the name again, his name is Patrick Juneau. He has given very odd statements, and it seems like, just from what he says, and I'll read it to you, from what he says, it sounds like Canada has their own Kirkpatrick from Arrow. It's a very similar thing, but a little bit worse. Why? Let me read this to you. Because Juneau also tried to intervene with UFO related Freedom of Information requests. And according to Canada's Access to Information Act, that's their version of FOIA, it allows government institutions to dismiss a request that is deemed to be made in bad faith or is otherwise an abuse of the right to make a request to access to records. So when he's seeing this paperwork referring to UFOs, that's how he chalks it down and says, nope, this is in bad faith. This is a no-go. We're not going to comply to your FOIA report. And in a January 2022 email, Juneau described UFO information requests as, quote, abusive, harassing, and a wild goose chase, and not in the interest of taxpayers. Taxpayers. Do you see this face? This face of shock? The whole world has an interest in UFOs. There are so many international UFO offices in Uruguay, in Chile, in Brazil, in the US, in Canada, in Japan, in China, in Russia, and the list continues. And you're telling me, even though I'm not Canadian, you're telling me that taxpayers don't have an interest? Do a survey. I dare you, because that answer is going to be wrong. But what's even more crazy is saying that these requests are abusive and they're harassing. That's a low blow, if you ask me. No one's asking me, but I'm giving you that answer anyways. And so, with that person in control of UFO information, probably helping out with the Canada Sky Project, you can imagine. You can use any kind of imagination that you have, and you can conjure up mentally the report they're going to provide to the public later this year. It's going to say nothing to see here. Keep paying your taxes. Oh my gosh, my blood is boiling. It is. It is. But what do you think about this? If you are living in Canada and you're a taxpayer, do you have an interest in UFOs? Would you walk over to Patrick's office and say, hey, buddy, sir, Mr., senor, however you want to be addressed, I have an interest in UFOs and you should do as I say because I'm the one paying your salary. It's insane. It really is. It's kind of disappointing, but it's not a shocker. And yet, a little bit it is in this new age that we're in with the more openness to talk about UFOs. All right, getting into our next one. I'm actually kind of interested about this one. It has to do with Bigfoot. And this case, this story, actually took place back in August of 2022. This information is just now being made public, and I need to preface this because this is important information. Because this story was posted anonymously online in a cryptozoology forum. I gotta say it, okay? And so take it or leave it if you believe the story or not, but news outlets are catching this. They're following up on this. And there's a few things I want to muse about with you on this story. Real or not, there's some pretty interesting nuggets in here. So let's get into this. Because according to the story, Mark, last name excluded, and his family were enjoying a rather peaceful picnic in their favorite forest back in August of 2022 when they encountered this insane thing, specifically with their daughter, age unknown. And so his young daughter by the name of Lily was playing nearby, and Mark and his wife, Jenny, suddenly heard this curdling scream. They immediately rushed to go check on Lily, and they were stunned by what they saw. There, sitting calmly beside Lily, was an enormous, hairy creature, easily 7 to 8 feet tall while crouching. That's pretty big. Covered in long brown hair with intelligent looking eyes, according to this, that were peering out, and the creature had a very stocky, powerful build. Mark and Jenny, the parents, were obviously grappled with fear, but Lily, the little daughter, seemed utterly at ease, happily mimicking the creature's slow, playful arm movements and head tilts as well. Then there were these kinds of low rumbling sounds. And there were these low rumbling sounds as if the Bigfoot, this weird entity, was kind of giggling. They ended up taking the daughter back and they were running away, and they left this Bigfoot entity alone. Let's talk about this. It goes into more detail. You can find that link in the description box below for all the articles that we cover. Those links are always below. And the thing I want to talk about here is obviously Bigfoot, duh. But this is a really interesting cryptid that has had some pretty good research on. A great research group is the Olympic Project back in Washington State. And let's have a little bit of fun here for a moment. Let's muse about this. let's say this entity, this Bigfoot, was also maybe a child, maybe a teenager, and they didn't see this little girl as a threat. Or even better yet, this is where it gets, I don't want to say this. What if this Bigfoot might have thought that this tiny little child might have been a baby Bigfoot? Why am I saying this? Okay. A lot of animals, as soon as they're born, have very little fur, very light fur. Could we apply that same logic, because it's logic for most animals, not all, could we apply that same logic to Bigfoot, to where when they as soon as they give birth, they have these babies that have maybe blonde hair, very little hair, and this child could have been mistaken as a baby Bigfoot? Or did this person just write a fun fiction story in a cryptozoology form? Take your pick. Doesn't matter. What matters is that we are thinking outside of the box here just for a moment to consider it being a mere possibility. There are a lot, and I'm saying a lot of Bigfoot stories, many of them that I have come across. Some Bigfoot are very hostile, but mainly towards adults. When we're dealing with children, they seem to be, according to the stories, allegedly, they seem to be a bit more passive, a bit more playful, and a bit more protective as well. There have been stories of children being lost in the forest, and then some of them relay their stories to their parents that a big hairy creature kind of led them to the right path or near water to be found. There have been stories of when people have been hurt in the forest, there is no help nearby, and allegedly Bigfoot have attempted to carry them and take them to a location to be found. It's the same when it goes for people. There are good people and bad people. With these cryptids, could it be the same? Or are Bigfoot just a mere misidentification of an ape, of a bear, of some form of pareidolia? We hear that all the time in books and in documentaries. They gotta say it. Actually, one of the funniest ones I heard was by, gosh, I can't remember, but it was by some professor working at some random university, and he had mentioned, no, what people are seeing are raccoons. It's already bad, I know. Raccoons that climbed up a tree to make them look like they're 7, 8 feet tall, and they have those kind of glowing red eyes when you put a light over them. I've heard some bad explanations, but that one, you gotta be joking. You gotta be kidding me to say that people that are seeing what they swear to be Bigfoot is actually a raccoon. That man should have been working for Project Blue Book or a comedian. Pick your poison. Both of them would do better. Bigfoot is a very interesting topic, and it's one that's obviously in the category of the strange and the mysterious. Jimmy and I have done a few shows on Bigfoot. It's always worth mentioning, and this particular story obviously caught my attention, and hopefully it caught your interest as well. Atune says, that would be absolutely freaky. And you know what? It would. And Hides is laughing at the big raccoons. It's a funny one. It's an absolute joke that you would probably tell with your drunk friends. Like, it's that bad of a joke. Or if he thinks that's the truth, bless him. Bless him. He needs to read maybe a few more books to get through. Jeez, too funny. Peter says a raccoon foot instead of a Bigfoot. You know what? Maybe. Possibly. Jonacide says that's worse than swamp gas. I think so too. Yeah, I do. But to be fair, Sarah is right. Raccoons can be very scary. Yes, they can. That's why you guys always got to have snacks with you, because they'll be less scary. The same goes for people. People are terrifying when they're hungry. Always pack snacks. You'll make friends, and you'll keep yourself safe as well. Undead says swamp ape gas. Love it. That is too funny. All right, I got one more for you, and this one, it's the funniest one for last, because talking about food. I love the topic of food. Who doesn't? And it's about tacos because this is hilarious actually. Because in just a few states down, actually, there was a law passed. It was all in court that not Mexicans, Mexican food, specifically tacos and burritos, are now Mexican sandwiches. They are officially sandwiches. Oh my gosh, this is actually really, really funny. And this took place in Allen County in the Plain Commissions in Fort Wayne. So next time someone tells you, hey, make me a sandwich, make them a taco instead. They're going to be shocked. And you know what? So much happier. And it's pretty easy to make. Who doesn't love tacos? That's why in the US, we now have Taco Tuesday. Tacos are good. Burritos are delicious. Tortillas only require one ingredient to make, and that is corn flour. That's it. And you do it like this. You put it on the pan and you're done. Like, it's easier to make than bread. It's a superpower if you can make bread. Tortillas take no brain power. You just got to be like this and then put them on the pan and that's it. Amazing. I love this. And this took place in Indiana because according to this case that has been on a few news outlets, but this one's coming from Como News, an Indiana judge, I almost said Indiana Jones, but no, Indiana judge has ruled that tacos are now a Mexican-style sandwich, ending a rather lengthy dispute between a restaurant owner at Fort Wayne and this judge by the name of Craig Bobe. His decision allows the restaurant Famous Taco to open a second location in a strip mall on the city's southwest side. Why was there this ginormous dispute about these being Mexican sandwiches? Who would care? And why on earth would you take it to court? Is it worth it? Well, to them, it definitely was, because the restaurant owner for Famous Tacos, he wanted to open a restaurant in that area I just mentioned to you, but he wasn't allowed to because that little mall strip was only allowing sandwich shops to be open there and food made to order. This was in order to prevent things like McDonald's and all these other fast food chains to open up in that location. But then when they saw the application, they said, "Ooh, a Mexican restaurant? No, that doesn't fit the criteria that we need." So these bad boys took it to court. So next time someone asks for a taco or a burrito, be like, "Hey, you want to have tacos tonight?" Say, "Oh, you mean the Mexican sandwich?" And they're going to look at you all cross-eyed. And then you can tell them this story and you will immediately earn brownie points from your friends and family, bringing in the rather strange facts, especially if you live in Indiana or you're going to visit Indiana, or if you have family in Indiana. Throw that fact over, because they're, in particular, Mexican tacos are now Mexican sandwiches. The more you know. But overall, those are all the articles that we have for today. If you enjoyed the show, hit the like button right down below. And we do several shows a week right here on this channel every single week. So make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the content that comes out. And now, again, the schedule is kind of all over the place, but Mysteries with the History on Thursday will always be on Thursday at 2:30 p.m. PST. But as for all the other shows, they're going to be flip-flopping around a little bit until I don't have to work 2 jobs anymore. And then also, so you want to make sure to subscribe to not miss Thursday's show. And if you enjoy some space ambient music, you can find it on my music channel under Cosmic Portals. I want to say thank you to everyone catching this live, all of the YouTube members, Patreon supporters, and of course, all of my amazing moderators. That is it for today. I will see you next time. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.
If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe as I do 3 videos right here every single week, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.